Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
We're in Wave Media.
Welcome back to Midnight Viewing. I'm Father Malone, and oh my God, this isn't just a midnight viewing. I've got a special guest in the studio with me. Is it Antonio Lepore? No. Is it Chris Stashew? No. Michael White? No. Is it Ripley G? No, it is HP, our composer here on Midnight Viewing, and a host of his own several programs, one of which I appear on. That is Night Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast. He's the host over there on that. But more importantly, he is the host of Noise Junkies, which is a musical podcast, which I encourage you all to go check out right now. There's going to be a link below in the comments. Noise Junkies is an examination of all things musical, whether it's a genre or a particular album or a particular artist, in-depth and fantastic. And HP has joined us here to talk about a musical film we wouldn't normally cover here on Midnight Viewing. I should just say, how you doing, HP?
I'm doing great, Father Malone. This is going to be a treat. I feel like this was a long time coming, us talking about this particular movie. So I'm looking forward to it, as always.
And we are talking about a jukebox musical in an era of millions of jukebox musicals, i.e. the laziest form of musical theater. Not shocked to find out that jukebox musicals go way, way back. In fact, one could say Singing in the Rain is a jukebox musical. That's made up of hits of the 20s and 30s. There are several types of jukebox musicals. There's the composer's life, where we have diegetic and non-diegetic, like maybe it's just them performing their songs. That's like Yankee Doodle Dandy with James Cagney. Like we get his life in music, but it's all performed on stage, so it's not really a musical necessarily. But then we get something like, just recently, what's that fucking Elton John bullshit? Rocket Man. And it is complete fantasy. All the characters are breaking in. We're expressing mood and emotion and situation through song.
So you raise a lot of good points. I always thought of a jukebox musical in the vein of something like Mamma Mia, where you're using the music of ABBA, but you're not telling a story that has anything to do with ABBA at all. It's basically like Rock of Ages, right? Rock of Ages tells a story, but it's not beholden to any one given artist. But I guess I never thought of a movie like Yankee Doodle Dandy being a jukebox musical, but you're absolutely right. It fits the bill.
You guys love the music of ABBA, right? Here, let's string them all together and fashion a bit of a story. Here we go.
It's a spoiler alert. This is, I agree, this is a jukebox musical, but this killed the idea of a jukebox musical so hard for the Beatles that, what was it, another 30 years before that Julie Taymor movie came out? Across the Universe was the next attempt at it.
That's right. That was in 2007, but we are talking about 1978's Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
It was 20 years ago today. Sergeant Pepper taught the band to play. They've been going in and out of style, but they guaranteed to raise a smile. So we introduce to you the acting number of this year, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
The town of Heartland, he left his musical instruments. These instruments have the power to make dreams come true. And as long as they remained in Heartland's care, humanity would live happily forever after.
Sergeant Pepper's Lonely, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It's wonderful to be here. It's certainly a thrill. We hate love. We hate joy. We love money. Love is more. Love is you, sweetie.
Bang, bang, that swell silver hammer came down upon her head. Bang, bang, that swell silver hammer made sure that she was dead.
Come together right now over me. The Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. We hope you have enjoyed the show. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. We're sorry, but it's time to go. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. We'd like to thank you once again. Sergeant Pepper's one and only Lonely Hearts Club Band. It's getting very near the end. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Hearts Club Band. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
That's right. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, written after a fashion by Henry Edwards, directed by Michael Schultz, and starring, oh, well, we should say it's produced by Robert Stigwood. We're going to be talking about Stigwood a lot, I imagine. And starring, here we go, Peter Frampton, the Bee Gees, Frankie Howard, that's with an E, Howard, which he did evidently just because it was weird.
Is that right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Just because it does look weird, like a spell check that you can never really correct. It just looks odd.
You'll always find him because of the way he spelled his last name. Frankie Howard is an interesting cat, bombardier in World War II. Anyway, also starring Paul Nicholas, Donald Pleasance is in this movie. Sandy Farina, Diane Steinberg, my goodness. And also featuring musical performances by Steve Martin, Aerosmith, Alice Cooper, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Billy Preston. Oh, let's not forget George Burns.
We can't forget. Can we please forget George Burns in this, please? I'd love to.
Now, this film is, as we said, a jukebox musical, in this case, made up with songs by Paul McCartney and John Lennon and one by George Harrison. It is the first cinematic attempt at a jukebox musical on screen, not the first attempt at a jukebox musical with the Beatles. I'm not counting Beatlemania. That's just a tribute band. However,
I know what you're coming up to here.
you goddamn right you do, because back in 1974, this is where Robert Stigwood gets involved. In 1974, Tom O'Horgan, who was the director of Hair and every other experimental thing going on in the early 1970s, had an idea to do a Candide version of the Beatles catalog, focusing on their more psychedelic songs. So Robert Stigwood, through what apparently were insane negotiations with Paul McCartney and John Lennon, taking several years and putting the project off for nearly a year, they end up creating Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band on the Run, which must have been a burn for John Lennon. Am I right?
I would agree with you there, but it's from all accounts, because I did a little research on it, and apparently it was a very well received production. Evidently, I think some of the Beatles were actually involved in it, directly involved. What I found most fascinating, Father Malone, is did you see who one of the stars was of this production?
Are we talking about understudy to the lead and yet playing the role of Sergeant Pepper, Mr. David Patrick Kelly? He of the Warriors fame. This is years before the Warriors.
It is. It is. I did, like I said, I tried to do a little research on this. It's very little information out there, but you're right. It was apparently it was so well received that Stigwood was on top of the world at that point anyway, or he eventually had the clout to do this. They produced like the soundtrack to Grease, Saturday Night Fever. I think he was involved in the movie Grease. It seemed like a can't miss proposition, right? The music of the Beatles, the Bee Gees were never hotter. Peter Frampton was never hotter. What could go wrong, Father Malone?
I keep hearing, or I keep reading about the genesis of this film. Obviously, it owes itself to the stage production. But the Bee Gees' involvement, I keep reading about because they participated in a sort of documentary called All This in World War II, where there were a bunch of different artists all covering the Beatles, including the Bee Gees, who did several of the songs that we're going to eventually hear in this film. Most reports say that inspired their participation, but the fact is Robert Stigwood owned the rights to these 29 songs, and he was going to use them whether or not the Bee Gees were involved. He had already been involved with the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack.
He ran the label RSO that they were on.
So it's not like he needed some fucking documentary where they recorded a couple of Beatles covers to get his interest in them going.
Yeah, they were already, obviously they were in his stable, so that accounts for their involvement. But Stigwood was huge. It's no one knows about him now, and no one's heard of him. But in his day, that was a huge label, RSO. And like I said, this seemed to be a can't miss proposition. Who wouldn't want to use their cachet to make a movie musical about the Beatles? It seemed like of course it was going to make money.
Oh, absolutely. And as I said, he's got the rights to 29 songs. So now we've got to do something with them. Here's a question, HP. How stoked is everyone who has to adapt the Beatles catalog into some sort of coherent storyline? Because they've also done it here in Las Vegas up till recently. It just closed. Cirque du Soleil had a Beatles show, Love. How stoked is everyone who has to compose the book for that musical that the Beatles named so many characters in so many of their songs?
Well, I would say it probably going into it, it probably seems like, oh, this isn't going to be hard. There's Lovely Rita, Meter Maid, and Henry the Horse in Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. There's Mr. Kite. So you're right. There's a rich Beatleverse from which to draw from. But I think that, and maybe I'm speaking a little bit about Across the Universe, which I liked but didn't love. I think the temptation is to be very lazy with it and take it as a very literal. How many Lucys are we going to find? Lucy and the Diamonds in this movie, for example. I guess it's enticing to a storyteller, but it ends up always feeling a little bit like a children's story. where,
Evidently that stage play, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band on the Run, the story was effectively the story we're going to get here in the film, where Billy Shears, who is like an up and coming rock star who's in love with Strawberry Fields, ends up being tempted by Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, who's like this rival band. Yeah, that carries over almost directly from one version of this to the next. But yeah, they couldn't help themselves again once they get to Across the Universe. In fact, they did it a little more cannily there, at least. Like one of the leads is named Maxwell after Maxwell Silverhammer. They even comment on it, but it doesn't mean we need a scene where he's singing about being a psychopath.
Right. He swings a hammer around and talks about it. Yeah, obviously, if you're gonna between the two, I'm gonna take Across the Universe as a quality picture, 10 times out of 10 over Sergeant Pepper. But what's interesting, as I'm watching this, I'm watching it with a more critical eye because we're going to be talking about it and discussing it. It would have, I think it would have been okay, maybe better if they had stuck to this idea of a Candide type of morality play where it's about Billy Shears and his tug and pull between his wholesome girlfriend and life of a rock star. But what I was struck by, and I never thought about as a child, is they brought in this whole weird subplot about Sergeant Pepper and these magical instruments that somehow bring the world into harmony. So it's like a lot of warring impulses I found this time around watching it. What did you think?
There are so many directions you could go with these songs. What they decided was, let's just make a big old MGM musical, which they certainly achieved. They shot this on the MGM backlot. It's beautiful. It is a big old production. I do agree with you, though, because there's so much, I don't know, just weird darkness involved in this film.
It is. I had the same reaction. And I thought some of it might have been my sense memory of watching this as a 6 or 7 year old, maybe. Probably we both saw it around that time. But there is a strange, like that, the stuff with the band getting tempted by Donald Pleasance's BD, the record executive, the record company owner or whatever.
BD Hoffler, who that's what George Burns refers to him, even though on his desk it says BD Brockhurst.
Brockhurst, yeah. But I'd forgotten maybe that there's a lot of, I don't know, it's a little scary even now watching it. There's a scene where they're performing I Want You, She's So Heavy, which is one of the darker Beatles songs anyway. But it basically soundtracks this band going out and meeting BD, him taking them back to his mansion for this sort of bacchanalian feast during which he basically drugs them and entices them to sign a contract for them. But all of this is happening and the lights get very dark and there's all these sort of strange sexual things happening in the background. That part I thought was actually still pretty effective, I thought.
Yeah, I found that to be wildly disturbing as a child.
Yeah, me too.
But then, as you said, we were watching this way too early because the fact is, this movie, I think people want to call it a bomb, but it made 20 million against 13. So it at least broke even. Even though this movie was basically considered a bomb or a flop at the time, considering what was going on around it, what was being released around it, it made its way to cable pretty quick. And if you were of the right age, where this new world of cable television, where you could watch movies over and over and over again, uncut, here you were. I watched this movie 7 billion times. Every kid in my neighborhood watched this movie 7 billion times. Every kid in my neighborhood at one point, I remember piling into my den to watch this movie. And they were, all the kids, these were older kids, and they were only there to see Aerosmith. To that point, I was freaked out by the whole BD, basically devil sequence. Watching it again now, it's only scary for two reasons. They keep doing sweaty close-ups of Donald Pleasance biting his finger in anticipation of will they or won't they sign. That's freaky. And the other thing is, when finally drugged, Peter Frampton looks like his fucking mind has been erased. It looks like there's nothing there at all. It looks like no fun whatsoever. And that looks scary. The rest of it, I'm down.
but it's all very exaggerated. He is Billy Shears, the character Billy Shears, is drinking from the biggest like brandy snifter you've ever seen. The thing is literally twice as big as Peter Frampton's head. And the music's going and it's very dark.
It's filled with dark liquid that we've seen them drop this capsule of powder into.
It's just there's just an overpowering darkness to the whole thing because it's all, I mean, as a child, obviously, we're seeing these people drink and do drugs, things that we were told are bad or that you're not supposed to do. And it's clear that the fact is he's coercing the band into doing something they wouldn't do unless they were drugged or whatever. So that's still pretty dark and pretty shocking. But to be fair, there's a lot of darkness in this movie that as I'm watching it, that's probably the darkest, one of the tonally darkest bits of the whole movie. But there's a lot of crazy stuff happening here. And there's, I don't know,
There's
it's
murder, there's suicide, there's there's the ruination of a town that becomes an entire red light district with prostitution, and there are robots.
It's crazy that there's this guy, Mean Mr. Mustard, who is obsessed with Strawberry Fields to the degree that he basically kidnaps her and is basically responsible for her death. It's really, really awful.
I don't think he's responsible for her death. He's just following orders.
But from FVB, yeah, but like the look of the movie, I can't describe what filmically what's happening, but the movie itself seems to have a layer of grime. Like the actual like picture seems a little dirty, a little dark, which I think you find with a lot of these movies from like the late 70s, especially. I don't know what is causing it. It's almost like there's like a fog around everything.
It is that late 70s gauzy, a new attempt at old Hollywood. Somehow they're, invoking the musicals of the past by casting everything through a pair of fucking sweat socks.
It's very, very hazy. But along that point, this is a really kind of a throwback to an old timey movie musical because there's the only dialogue that's spoken is really spoken by George Burns, who narrates the whole picture as the mayor of this place that they're from, Heartland. But everything else is told through song and or like these silent movie type interstitials where someone will say something, but it'll be rendered in text below them like a subtitle. It's all very old timey and kind of goofy. For some reason, every time the Bee Gees or the band has to go in hot pursuit, they're taking a hot air balloon, which I couldn't quite understand.
Hot air balloons were hot in the late 70s, man. It was like a Foreigner album cover, basically. They were trying to invoke.
I guess so. But yeah, there's a lot of weirdness going on. We'll get into it, but
let's get into it.
It's a weird movie.
Let's get into the story of the movie. Given, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 minutes, you and I could come up with a better story with this group of songs.
I would say they took the easy way out with a lot of this. A lot of it is told very literally. I guess what do you do when you have a song like Maxwell's Silver Hammer, which in itself tells a story, but at the same time, and maybe I'm a little bit biased because, to be honest, that might be my least favorite Beatles song of all time.
Also the Beatles' least favorite song of all time, except for Paul McCartney, right? All three of them fucking hated it.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. It's lazy. Like who? Let me ask. You had mentioned who wrote this screenplay. Do you know? Do you have that information?
His name is Henry Edwards.
So it was just one person. It wasn't by committee.
Correct.
Okay. Then it makes even less sense why it's so disjointed and going in all sorts of different directions, unless he was getting notes from Stigwood saying, no, you have to put this song in there.
That is
shoehorn it in.
Henry Edwards is Stigwood's guy. This is Stigwood's script in this writer's format.
Yeah. I have no doubt.
Based on the previously produced material, like stripping away weirdly stripping away the fantastical elements, like the Candide, like commentary elements, and then just making it a straight ahead story where we're going to treat it like movie musical logic. We're going to basically treat it like an opera or an operetta. We're going to make it a comic book.
And in fact, it's funny you say that because there were Marvel used to put out a book called Marvel Super Special. It's the one everybody knows. Kiss famously had their comic book under this umbrella of the Marvel Super Specials. In France, they produced a Marvel Super Special around this movie. There is basically a comic book of this movie, but it's all in French. So
I'm going to have to get my hands on it.
it's very weird because they did Blade Runner, they did Conan in this series, so why not do Sergeant Pepper?
I had Blade Runner and the Conan, but
I had Conan, I didn't have Blade Runner. They're great. They were great.
yeah, I have a paperback of it still. Before we get any further, because we are going to be talking about technique along with plot as we move along. And we just mentioned the screenwriter who was kind of a nobody and continued to be a nobody. But this film is helmed by Mr. Michael Schultz. HP and I were talking about him off air. His filmography is actually quite incredible. This was his only attempt at like a big budget studio film, and literally anyone would have taken it. You or I would have taken it, right?
Undoubtedly.
Undoubtedly. Never mind the fact that he is an African American director, so it made it actually really big deal that he was handed the reins of a big studio movie in 1978. But he had proven himself clearly in the past with films like Coolie High and Car Wash and Greased Lightning. After this, he would do Bustin' Loose with Richard Pryor and Carbon Copy. And in 1985, Crush Groove and The Last Dragon, both in 1 year. He did the Disorderlies film with the fucking Fat Boys. He has been living on television ever since. Incredibly, I'm going to go down the list from the beginning. The first series he was involved in was the Rockford Files. He did Starsky and Hutch and Beretta. He eventually worked on Ally McBeal and Everwood and Arrow, the fucking Arrow series, Blackish, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. He's still working today. His last credit was The Wonder Years, that revamp of The Wonder Years. Clearly an incredibly talented director, saddled with the worst possible situation of all time. Yes, I want to do a big studio movie. Yes, I want this crazy budget and access to all of these people and these actors and these musicians. Who wouldn't? I would take the job just to work with Billy Preston. Here you go. Here's the script. Oh, no. Here are your actors, quote unquote, Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees. Oh, no.
I was stunned because up till now, I gave zero thought to whoever directed this because it just seemed like I would not have been surprised if it was a one and done, someone who got their shot and just blew it. But I was as surprised as you to see who did it, and obviously what a strong filmography they had. On just on the basis of Crush Groove is I would label it as an important movie about breakdancing. It's up there with, I mean, it's a better movie than Breakin', put it that way. Breakin' may be better remembered, but Crush Groove is better movie.
It's an important movie for hip hop culture in general.
But for me, my personal favorite out of all of that was The Last Dragon. I love that movie unreservedly. I think it's a fantastic movie. It's this unicorn where they made it and it was great, and I don't know. We've never seen one quite like it again. It's almost like a throwback, like a hip hop version of a Bruce Lee movie. That's what I always loved about it.
Show enough.
But it showed I don't get me started. But anyway, it was, I think you said it. Any one of us, if given the opportunity, would have jumped at the chance to make a big budget. And this was a big budget, tentpole piece of film. It's just, I can't imagine what went through his head when a month into filming and he's dealing with musicians who can't act, a story that doesn't make sense, a soundtrack that is terrible, to say the least. Yeah, I give him credit for doing this, getting past it, and continuing with his career. It's pretty amazing.
The opening of the movie is terrible, where it's not terrible, it's just a waste of time because it's setting up what you were alluding to earlier, which is we get this weird mythology of the actual Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, who somehow, while marching through World War I, shut that war down. And then we're treated like heroes upon their return. And then we are feted the Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band through the ages, through the musical age. It's like a Ralph Bakshi sequence from American pop, where we get like a 1920s jazzy version of them, and we get like a 30s. All of that sucks. However, when Dougie Shears, we got to talk about that. When Dougie Shears first steps out with the cornet to introduce the band, that's one shot up until Billy Shears, until Frampton starts singing.
Oh, when they circle the bandstand,
Yes.
it's amazing.
It is incredible because it starts at that fucking city hall, follows him through that crowd, goes over to these old men. He does his thing on the stage, pans down to the old men, the French horn guys, pans back up. Hey, here are the Bee Gees. Pans 360 around to them, and then spins around to Peter Frampton, and then we cut finally. But that's basically the entire song, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, in one take, and it's never uninteresting.
The direction is good, and I'm sure that Michael Schultz is doing the best with what he has to do and trying to make it as artful as possible, because there are other aspects, which I'm sure we'll get to, that are interesting, that are visually interesting, but none of that has to do with the actual acting or the music on display here.
Okay, so much props to Michael Schultz. Okay, we are about to, I think, eviscerate this fucking movie. So, present day, 1978, we're in Heartland. We're in generic Heartland. It's the whitest.
It's a town called Heartland in the movie.
Whitest town on earth. George Burns is the mayor. He won't stop talking. And I love George Burns. My favorite part is when we flash back to 10 years ago when Sergeant Pepper actually died, and they've made up George Burns to look younger by giving him like brown hair and a mustache, and they must have taped back his wrinkles. It's so ridiculous. So the plot, such as it is Sergeant Pepper's magical instruments are now going to be stored at City Hall, thus maintaining peace in the world, or at least I want to call it Pepperland.
I do too. At least the community is going to maintain harmony with these magical instruments. There's a whole band's worth of instruments here.
It will remain the whitest city in America as long as these instruments are all together.
Should have just called it Whitesville.
Sergeant Pepper had the American Eagle medallion from the war, which he's passed down to his grandson. Billy Shears. Thank you, Beatles. And thank you, Paul, really. And he's got a jealous half brother, cousin.
I think it's his cousin, and the other members of the band are his friends, the Hendersons. The Hendersons will all be there.
Why are they not named Vera, Chuck, and Dave?
That would have been great.
Could have named Robin Gibb Vera. It would have been fine.
Could have. But so he has the jealous cousin who's always, when he's an adult, he's always angling for money. He's trying to backstab his virtuous cousin Billy to take money and all that. But the Hendersons, the other three, are played in adulthood by the Beatles. They comprise the rest of the band.
They are not HP. They are played by the Bee Gees.
I'm sorry. I say the Beatles. I meant the Bee Gees. Excuse me.
This movie would have been fucking crazy if the Beatles reunited to be in it, right?
It would have been a more interesting movie, maybe.
Can you imagine John Lennon punching out Steven Tyler?
Fighting with, I guess that would have been Peter Frampton anyway, fighting with Steve Martin. But the thing of it is, I have to say, like, having the Bee Gees comprise the band and Peter Frampton, beyond the fact that they couldn't deliver, conceptually, that's a really smart idea for the time because they were so popular. And the Bee Gees have always been thought of in the same breath as the Beatles anyway. They were always considered, a little less than the Beatles, but swimming in the same waters. So why not? I can't fault them for the concept here.
Yeah, the Bee Gees in particular, they were ruling the world. Of course, you're going to put them in a movie. You got the Spice Girls, put them in a movie. You got to strike while the iron is hot. You got these Beatles, put them in a movie. You got to catch
seriously. And they're not actors, but they are and were great musicians and great vocalists. So what could go wrong, Father Malone?
Did you say they weren't actors?
They weren't. What did they do? They do Oliver or something when they were young. I never thought of them as actors. The Bee Gees.
No, I'm agreeing with you. They're fucking terrible. They should not
I
be
thought-
labeled as actors. Frampton either. By the way, Peter Frampton, love Peter Frampton because I grew up white and it's suburban. So he's like in my bloodstream somehow. That fucking Frampton Comes Alive album, none of us could escape. But watching him in just that opening scene we were talking about, where he's canoodling with Strawberry Fields and they're like, come on, Billy Shears, get up here on the stage. And he comes running up with this grin. It's this kind of, all I could think is that is Tiger Beat magazine on two legs.
It's a little bit uncanny valley for me because he's trying to play at emotion and there's just nothing behind it. I feel bad for him because he was so overmatched clearly in this. This is a guy who made it big as a musician and he stretched a little bit too far. It's kind of sad.
He's very, very pretty. It only makes sense, but don't ask him to do anything. That could only contribute to what you described as the sort of silent movie. We're going to throw in placards to give us some dialogue, but mainly they do the weirder thing, which is they're over emoting as if it's a silent movie and saying the lines out loud, and George Burns's voice is coming out of them.
As he's narrating, yeah.
Was everyone on LSD when they were making this film? They weren't. You know what they were all on? Cocaine. Robin Gibb apparently was like staggered by the amounts of cocaine and was apparently taking barbiturates just to get to sleep at night from the filming of this film.
I read similar things where they're saying there were like crew members walking around with huge baggies just in the open full of cocaine. That was the late 70s, I guess, for you. I mean, the Bee Gees weren't immune to the allure of drugs. They weren't, choir boys, but for them to be shocked at the level of drug usage on that production says something.
What is driving this film? It's silly, right? They're going to reform the band. They're going to reform Sgt. Pepper. They're going to continue the legacy of Sgt. Pepper. They're going to take the music to the masses. That's the idea. They're going to spread world peace.
That is the idea. And almost immediately during this introductory show, they get a telegram from B.D. Brockhurst saying, I don't know, is it Brockhurst or I don't know, one or the other, BD. And he says he loves the music. So almost immediately they go to the big city, which I think is actually LA. I think it's literally LA.
Of course it's LA. My God. Let's just say how they got there. Now, you said their form of conveyance from Heartland, I continue to want to call it Pepperland, is a giant hot air balloon covered in hearts, which they take to head to LA, but BD has sent his private jet, which smashes into the thing in one of this fantasy moments, and now they're inside the airplane like a cartoon.
All of a sudden, I thought I'd missed something. I'm watching it, and like the next thing I know, they're in this jet. What happened? Yeah, the jet hits the balloon, but there's no indication of anything happening. It's just a jump cut, and they're inside the jet now.
Okay, we land in Los Angeles, the city of angels. There's a shot. I mean, they show them staring out the window of a smog-covered Los Angeles, and there's the joke: City of Angels. Get it? Ha ha! It's smoggy. Now we meet Donald Pleasance, he's great here.
He's having so much fun. You can just tell.
And he gets to sing.
Singing is a stretch.
Okay, he's talk singing it.
I want you so badly. I want you. I want you so bad. It's driving me mad. It's driving me mad.
It's great.
It is.
It's one of the tracks I will listen to off of the thing. There are a couple of songs on here that I think are really good interpretations. The obvious ones being Earth, Wind, and Fire and Aerosmith. Those became radio hits, for fuck's sake.
Curiously, those are the only two songs in the soundtrack that George Martin did not produce.
Shocking. Not at all shocking. Yeah. Not at all shocking.
I was all ready to give him credit to say the only real lasting wonder from any of this is the soundtrack, but the two strongest songs he had nothing to do with their reinvention, let's say.
I will contend that there are a couple of songs here, not Bee Gees necessarily related, that are not like radio hits, but as good as an interpretation as you were going to get. I think When I'm 64, this actually might be the most superior version of When I'm 64 I've ever heard, as sung, quote unquote, I guess, by Frankie Howard. It's great.
Now, when I get older, losing my hair, many years from now, will you still be sending me a Valentine, birthday greeting, bottle of wine? If I'd been out till 2:45, would you lock the door? Or will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Paul McCartney was such a theatrical writer that having somebody like Frankie Howard, who is old school vaudevillian, basically, performing that is great. The other one, as far as that goes, to me, is this song.
Because they're not taking it too seriously. They're not slavishly trying to do a 70s version of that song. So I guess in that way, they're successes. I don't know that I would, to be perfectly honest, I don't know that I would listen to the Frankie Howard When I'm 64 as for leisure, but I can appreciate the stretch, let's say.
This is where we meet Lucy, Diane Steinberg, who was a burgeoning solo artist at the time, right? So she's the chauffeur here, right?
I love this part. I think I know what you're getting into, but I love what they did with her here because they're singing "I Want You." It's "I Want You," like we've been talking about, but the perspective keeps shifting. First, it's Donald Pleasance saying "I want you" to the band to convey "I want to sign you," and then Lucy, Diane Steinberg, is singing it to Billy Shears because she has the hots for him. So she's singing "I Want You" to an uncomfortable Billy Shears, and Dougie Shears is in the car and he's singing it to Lucy because he wants her. So there's all these different perspectives. But meanwhile, like there's a band, a group of like Hell's Angels that drive past the car. And on the back of one of them is Lucy done up as a Hell's Angel. So they keep seeing, like they'll see a prostitute on the street.
They see a prostitute. So yes, the bikers go by, and so it's bikers, and then each of has a different girl on the back. The final one being Lucy. When they pull forward, the backs of their jackets read "Lucy and the Diamonds." The four of them together. The other thing I want to point out is Lucy is on the back of a motorcycle driven by the guy who's dressed exactly the same in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. You know, you're at the hideout of the Satan's Helpers. Same guy, same outfit. Serape.
I didn't know that.
Fucking got World War II ace kind of helmet. You know, that 30 thing. Anyway, now we've met Lucy and the Diamonds, although we've met them prior, because before we even get to Heartland, we get scheming BD and Lucy and the Diamonds. So Lucy has already decided she wants Billy Shears and just trying to keep that quiet from BD. But so we've met them. Now we're meeting them as these biker chicks, as if the sort of presentation, but Lucy is also driving the car. And like you said, they drive past like a group of prostitutes. It's Lucy and the Diamonds there too. So now Lucy and the Diamonds are every temptation in Los Angeles. This part of the movie, I really, really like. This whole sequence is the best sequence in the movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Hands down. I 100% agree. I loved it because the song itself works on so many levels. It's not just the literal interpretation of the song. You have all these things going on. And I love the fact that she is the object of obsession for everybody else in that car, for all of the Bee Gees, for Dougie. It's great. It's like art. I don't know. I thought it was really creative.
Yeah, and then we've already talked about the rest of that sequence, which is the sort of the actual seduction sequence where it becomes very, very impressionistic. It's so good, man. Like, I wish the whole movie had lived up to the rest of this. And I wish we had gotten more of them as the seduced, because honestly, this is all meaningless. Because as soon as they get popular, it's just squeaky clean fucking Billy Shears and the Bee Gees.
Yeah, they don't go full on corruption with the band. They don't fall prey beyond the scene of them getting signed by BD. There's really no degradation for them. They're still the same band. And in fact, eventually Strawberry Fields decides to go to LA because she has some premonitions that there's bad stuff happening. So she takes a bus
She's
and
right.
goes.
She's right.
She is right, and she goes and she puts a stop to all the nonsense. And then we're into that whole bit about them getting signed, that whole plot of them like the corruption versus the wholesomeness is gone. After she picks them up, that's it.
No, but it isn't. Because what it has done is allowed mean Mr. Mustard to infiltrate Pepperland, I mean Heartland.
But that's still not down to the stresses of a rock band on the ascent and all the temptations.
No, because that would have required actors to portray these roles in and out. What we have to do is keep this farcical and jump around and use as many of the 29 songs as Robert Stigwood paid for. God damn it. We have the subplot of what the corruption has wrought back at home. Instead of seeing them corrupted, we get the corruption of Heartland, quite literally.
By the way, did you bring up the fact that Mr. Mustard's henchman is the guy from Twin Peaks?
I did not. We're talking about Carol Stryken.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only the giant from Twin Peaks, but he is Lurch in the Barry Sonnenfeld Addams Family movies. He's one of the aliens in Men in Black. He's been in everything, and this is his first role. He's Mean Mr. Mustard's henchman, simply known as the Brute.
The Brute, yeah. No lines, but he makes an impact.
Oh, yeah, dancing around and stuff. He's great.
Felt like the movie took a real left turn after they abandoned the whole. I can see your point that Mr. Mustard continues that idea, but that's where it becomes about the FVB, which in the movie is called the Future Villain Band, and it has to be said, this is the organization that is sending Mean Mr. Mustard to steal the instruments.
Is it though? Look, I know I just watched it, but this stuff goes out of my head immediately. Are the messages coming from FVB, or he's to deliver the instruments to FVB? Because I want to know who is the voice behind everything, because we never meet them.
Oh, I think it's a piece of narration that George Burns makes, that he's getting his orders from the FVB. You're right, because FVB is technically Aerosmith in the movie, but it's almost like a Dr. No or something. Someone who it's a vocoder voice that says,
Take it to the Father, Son.
But it's one person giving him all of the orders for what to do.
And we never meet them. So
No.
Here's what needed to have happened. They needed to either pick one or the other. They needed to pick this plot line where somebody is infiltrating Heartland and fucking shit up, and their band has to come and solve all this shit, or it's the corruption of the band in mean old Hollywood.
That's what I'm saying. I would have loved if they continued with the latter, with the Hollywood versus Heartland thing. I think you could have used the songs for a much better purpose. Give them double meanings, like I Want You had. That sequence, I think we just agreed, is pretty fucking brilliant. But then it's all thrown away once they decide to go on this sort of madcap adventure to get these instruments back.
There is another great sequence, which is and one of the most economical things I've ever seen in a movie, which is the printing of the soundtrack album. They film it as if this is their first album coming out. So they have used the production of their soundtrack as a piece of film in their film. Brilliant.
Which is crazy because, I mean, at what point do you produce the soundtrack to the movie that you're making at the same time? It twisted my mind up to think about that. Like chicken or egg.
Because it is a musical and a traditional one at that, they recorded all the tracks and they're just lip syncing in the film. So it's ready to go. So why wait?
It's pretty smart.
Probably late in production they got that footage, but still it's a great sequence, and it ends at Tower Records, the long lamented, long lost Sunset Boulevard Tower Records. I purchased Peace and Love cassette of the Pogues album Peace and Love at that Tower Records. That
was the original, right?
No, the original's in San Francisco, I believe, but that was the big one in Hollywood.
Because that was I remember seeing that in the movie FM also. That figures into it.
If you saw anyone going to Tower Records in the 70s and 80s, it was probably Sunset.
Definitely iconic. You couldn't mistake it for any other place. Sure.
I used to go to the one in Santa Monica all the time when I was living there, but they're
Did you
all
used to
gone
go to-
now, baby.
Did you ever go to Amoeba? Was that around?
Oh yeah, of course. I still go to Amoeba when I go to LA.
Okay. I knew it's still like a
fantastic.
big thing, but yeah.
They're like
Cool.
the last fucking resort, man. They're like the only game in town, it feels like. Oh my God, me and Mr. Mustard is under orders. He's got to steal the instruments and scatter the instruments, right? He's got to take them to different people because we have different nefarious purposes for them. We don't know what any of these instruments actually do. It's not like the Lost Room or something where with the instruments of, if you have the coronet, that'll give you the power of flight. No, we don't get anything like that, just that we need the instruments.
It's not like the Infinity Stones where you know that one controls time and one is power. And the other interesting thing that I never picked up on is Sergeant Pepper had a band. There's the cornet, there's the French horn, there's a bass drum, there's saxophones, there's all kinds of stuff. But ultimately, there's only 3 instruments that they have to track down, right? It's the cornet, it's the bass drum. Oh, Father Son has the tuba. But what happened to all the other instruments? Are the other ones not magical?
No, I guess not. It's just those 4. And they never use them.
Right. Mustard gets the orders. So he gets 3 instruments. One goes, the cornet goes, let's get into this. The cornet goes to Dr. Maxwell, played by Steve Martin, a la Maxwell's Silver Hammer. The bass drum, in a weird, I don't know why, but the bass drum is just on the bus that they steal. So there's no searching for it.
They say keep the drum for yourself. Like,
okay.
And he has no reaction or anything. It should be like, ooh, like, okay, I guess I'll fucking keep this drum.
So the bass drum's just on the bus and they find it just by happenstance. And the tuba, like I said, goes to this guy named Father Son, who's probably the creepiest performance in the whole picture is Alice Cooper as Father Son. We'll talk a little bit about each individual scene, but I still find and it's not him, we'll talk about it, but I don't want to get ahead of it. But yeah, so they're these 3 associates of the future villain band. They've got to go and do battle with them, basically, right?
Meanwhile, Heartland, Pepperland just keeps sinking into further and further degradation, so much so that the grand gazebo with that 360-degree shot from the opening that was so beautiful is now a cheeseburger.
It's a giant cheeseburger with saggy cheese. It's bizarre, sad.
You go to Dr. Maxwell in his Hitler Youth, man. It's a little little weird.
But what does the hammer do? He has this hammer.
His hammer will, once applied to your skull, will lobotomize you and turn you into one of the FVB youth, one of their army, the FVB army.
But it's odd because while he's and we have to mention that Steve Martin is not singing Maxwell's Silver Hammer. He's doing he's like, it's as if Jim Carrey was doing it.
Joan was quizzical, studied pataphysical science in the home. Late nights, all alone with a pestle. Maxwell Edison, majoring in medicine, called her on the phone. Can I take you out to the pictures, Joe?
It's as if they boiled down his whole shtick to, well, excuse me. It's all very exaggerated. This is before he reinvented himself as more of a serious actor, I would say.
This is his first thing, man. Like, they're plucking him out of not necessarily obscurity because he was wildly popular at the time, but they are like presenting him as the wild and crazy guy.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you get. It's all a lot of with his hands, but the old people file in on a conveyor belt in Hospital Johnny's, and he whacks them with this hammer with this strange sort of matted in lightning effect. And like you said, they turn into younger versions of themselves in basically Hitler Youth garb.
It is something. Let's say that. It's something.
There's a lot of brainwashing in this movie, and this is only the first part of it. Like, that's the central thing that FVB is after, right?
Yeah.
It's all various ways to brainwash somebody because so that's his deal.
Okay, and then we get karate fight.
and it's to the point where Billy Shears is squared off against Dr. Maxwell, and it's almost like a lightsaber duel.
It is exactly a lightsaber duel, man. Like
Yeah.
let's go as hard as we can without George Lucas suing us, because he will, because we heard what happened over at Battlestar Galactica.
Right. So somehow Billy Shears gets knocked out by the hammer. He doesn't get brainwashed, but he's knocked out. But they retrieve the coronet, and that leads to the saddest interpretation of the song Strawberry Fields Forever, sung by the character Strawberry Fields as they're trying to revive him. By the way, we did not mention Sandy Farina, who plays Strawberry Fields. She bears. Well, here's the thing. Number one, I will admit I had a crush on her. I thought she was super cute at the time. Her career didn't really pan out. I don't know that she did any other movies after this, but she's probably best known after this as being the co-lead vocalist of Hands Across America. Do you remember that in I think it was 85? Hands Across America?
Neil, we all remember it.
Right. So I think what happened was they recorded the song as a demo, expecting some famous musicians like a USA for Africa, We Are the World kind of thing, but nobody did. So they just left her on it. So she's singing that basically, her and some other nameless, faceless vocalist. But good vocalist, good singer. The stars didn't line up for her. I think she passed away a few years ago, sadly, but I always had a soft spot for her. I always thought she was really cute.
I hate her.
Well, no, I'm not saying the character is annoying and she has no agency in this whole picture. It's really unfortunate for her. I'm just suggesting that I thought she was talented and super cute.
Okay. I'm perhaps being unfair, because what I'm saying is I hate the character of Strawberry Fields.
They get the coronet back from Dr. Maxwell. They find the bass drum already on the bus that they've stolen.
Only one place to go. The freakiest part of this movie. We thought that earlier seduction scene was freaky. No. That was fine. You expect that. They're in Hollywood. What did you expect? No one expects what the fuck is going on here with Alice Cooper.
This was probably the thing. Like, I know we made a lot about the sort of the seduction scene with the band, but this probably was the most, I don't want to use the word damaging to me as a child, but this is the one that freaked me out the most out of all of the sequences in this movie. Because again, we're in a brainwashing situation. He is overseeing a classroom it's almost like something out of Pink Floyd's The Wall, where it's a classroom of kids that are being basically forced to watch these view screens all around them, these giant movie screens. And it's the song Because that Alice Cooper is singing, but he's being rendered in psychedelic, like very darkly psychedelic poses. And he's not really singing it so much as
he's like the fucking Riddler. Like he's in a leotard, like a black leotard. Yeah. And it's Alice Cooper. As a child, as you're saying, this is really too much to bear. That is all going on. The Hitler Youth are being brainwashed by Alice Cooper in a unitard singing Because, while the actual Alice Cooper, who has been filmed and is apparently appearing on that screen, is in the same auditorium monitoring what's going on and like manning the equipment. But it's a really brutish version of himself. We're getting Vince here. We're not getting Alice Cooper.
We're getting Vince Fernie, absolutely. And I think he's actually watching a boxing match
on
an old black and white TV. So it's as if he's just hit play on something and he's ignoring everything that's happening in the classroom. And he's just, because I think they say that he's an ex-janitor who was picked on, and this is his revenge to all the kids that used to pick on him. So you're right. We're getting the idealized version of Alice Cooper with this weird skin tight bodysuit. But doing these, that undersells it. He's doing these weird poses and he's singing the song. He's not singing it so much as squeaking it out of his voice. Like
he's croaking it at us.
He's croaking. It's so bizarre.
Love is old, love is new. Love is all, love is you, sweetie. Because The sky is blue. It makes me cry. Because the sky is blue.
This is a Beatles jukebox musical, as is Across the Universe. They also use Because in that film. Do you remember how they use it?
I don't remember how they used it.
It's after they've visited the Dennis Leary. after they visited the Timothy Leary, after the Bono sequence, right?
Yeah.
They're all laying in a field together and it's all blissful and the sun is rising and they're all singing in unison. And it is the most tranquil thing in the world. Here, it's the most horrifying. Thank you, Alice Cooper.
It's really, and to be really honest, I can't really listen to the original Beatles version without thinking about that, because frankly, this might have been my first exposure to the Beatles music before I knew that there was a Beatles. It was either this or maybe Yellow Submarine, the movie to some degree, but certainly I would never have heard Because I never would have heard Abbey Road. There's something sinister about the whole thing now when I listen back to it, and it's probably all down to this scene in particular, because it's very, like I said, the imagery is it's very nightmarish, I would say.
I had an early top loader VCR back in the day and certainly had a recording of this film. I think, honestly, I still have my VHS copy. I know I could dig it out. I definitely have the soundtrack album and I think the novelization somewhere. But anyway, because I had the ability to fast forward, there are two sequences that I would fast forward as a child watching this movie. This was one of them. Just because it was genuinely freaky. As bizarre as I found the seduction scene, it was still Diane Steinberg being super fucking sexy. And the whole scene is alluring, even if Peter Frampton is ruining it by looking like a moron. This scene, however, the Alice Cooper scene, was just absolute nightmare fuel. So I would fast forward through it. Can you guess the other sequence I would fast forward through?
Let me think. I got to think about this for just a moment. I know sequences you wouldn't, but let me think about this for a minute. Is it A Day in the Life by the Bee Gees?
No, although on rewatch, I now would skip that sequence just because visually they do nothing at all.
So what was the other sequence you disliked so much?
Fixing a hole.
Oh, I can't believe I didn't think of that. It's as if the guy has no rhythm. It's weird. Everything is on like the 1 and the 3 beat. Like he doesn't have any nuance.
I'm fixing a hole where the rain gets in and stops my mind from wondering where it will go.
But it doesn't really serve any purpose. It's just old ass George Burns singing this in an oldie time style.
I bought 29 songs. You're using 29 songs.
It's right. You better fucking well use every one of those songs. God damn it. You know how much this is costing? I totally agree. There's a lot about that first third of the movie that, to be honest, I would just fast forward through, including that. But yeah, that Alice Cooper thing was hard to shake, man.
Continues to be to this day. I'm glad it's in here. What's funny about this movie is it's really lame. But at the same time, Aerosmith is in it, and Steve Martin, as miserable as that sequence ends up being, Steve Martin was super fucking. It's Steve Martin to this day. He's in it. Alice Cooper was in it. Did they owe Stigwood money? They're lending so much cred to this film that doesn't deserve it.
It is weird, and I give Alice Cooper credit because what was really interesting about it is it's almost like he was deflating the image or the idea of Alice Cooper, the shock of it, by having him depicted simultaneously as this schlubby guy eating like a turkey sandwich, like shadow boxing, watching this cheesy old boxing match. Like he's so ordinary in that guise, and yet him with the bodysuit singing is so extraordinary.
It came to light while they were making the Fast and the Furious movies that there were actual contracts from actors where a certain amount of punches had to be thrown between each character. We're basically talking about The Rock and fucking Vin Diesel, right? Like they have it in their contract that like they can't lose a fight, and if they get hit 6 times and they had to hit 7 times in return, like bullshit like that, right? Just ego nonsense. And
I think didn't the Rock had that with Black Adam too. I think that was part of the reason why he didn't fight Superman, because he didn't want to be the one to lose the fight.
all ego is my point. And
Yeah.
now you watch the end of this scene, and Barry Gibb from the Bee Gees punches out Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper lets that happen on screen forever. Who cares, right? It's a fucking movie. We all got paid. We're all on cocaine. We're all having a good time. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, I think Alice Cooper has always been one of the savviest entertainers in rock and roll history anyways. I think he's always had a refreshing lack of ego, and I think this is a good indication of that, because he held himself up as this shocking symbol, but he knew that he was just laughing. He was scaring people all the way to the bank. Really smart guy.
It's the best way to scare people. To the bank. We got to get back to fucking Pepperland. I mean, Heartland.
Heartland. So they retrieve these instruments. For some reason, we'll overlook the fact that there's probably another half dozen instruments that are still out there in the wild, but they're never referenced after this. They convince Heartland is still in ruins because of Mean Mr. Mustard. BD sets up a benefit concert featuring Sgt. Pepper's band. So they're going to come back triumphantly to their hometown and put on a show, as it were.
Show.
Yeah. I think they come out being for the benefit of Mr. Kite. It's all
Here
very.
we talk about MGM, big old production number. Here it is, man. We've even brought the clowns.
Yeah. There's a roller skating horse, of course. And they bring hope back to Pepperland, but there's still darkness nibbling at the edges of this fairy tale. Probably my favorite song, one of my favorite songs on the album, they watch a performance of Earth, Wind, and Fire doing Gotta Get You Into My Life. And it's fantastic. I went for years not even realizing that was a Paul McCartney song.
As did I.
Because it's pretty damn near definitive what they do with it, what the band does with it, how they interpret it. You would never even guess it was a Beatles song.
Ooh, and then I suddenly see, ooh, and then I tell you that I need you every single day of my life. You didn't run, you didn't lie, you knew I want to hold you. And had you gone, you knew in time we'd meet again before I told you. Ooh, you were meant to be near me. Ooh, I really want for you to hear me say we'll be together every day. Got to get you into my life. Got to get you into my life. Got to get you.
Oh, it's a standout. The whole sequence is great with them.
But what happens during the song?
Yeah, not so great happening during their songs. What's going on backstage with Dougie Shears, and Lucy of Lucy and the Diamonds? They've gone rogue. They have no fealty to anyone now. Not Sgt. Pepper, not BD, not fucking Mean Mr. Mustard or the FVB. They're gonna get paid and fucking hit the road. This is another sequence that I think could have been great, but we haven't really talked about Dougie.
Paul Nicholas?
Yeah, who's terrible. He's got an okay voice. He's got an okay voice. He's got for the late 70s, okay rock voice. He's really a theater guy, you can tell. But his performance is so fucking over the top, man. It makes me want to murder him. Meanwhile, Diane Steinberg is fucking great in that sequence and just ill-served by this human cartoon she's saddled with.
I have no idea what happened with Diane Steinberg's. Is it Steinberg, right? I keep saying Steinberg. Whatever. Cut that out. I don't know what happened with her career. She had everything going for her in this movie. She's gorgeous. She can sing her ass off. I know she put out a number of albums, and I think that was her thing. But I did some research. I never got a sense for why this was her one and only motion picture. It's weird.
Well, I think she just wanted to focus on music after this. Remember, this was, even though you can say, hey, financially, this made money and everything, but this was a flop. And you mentioned it was critically lauded. I don't think so, my man.
No, I didn't say it was critically. I said you're right. It did make a modest profit, 20 million off of $13 million budget, but there's no getting around the fact that this was critically. Why would I ever say it was? I don't think I said that.
At the very beginning, you were like, this was a critical darling. And I'm
I didn't know.
unsure as to why it didn't make more money. Because I agree.
Bullshit.
I agree with all of those critics. This is one of the best films of all time.
No, this was make no mistake. If I said that I wasn't I didn't know what I was talking about, because this critically this could not have been a worse flop on those terms. But
that might curtail one from pursuing further roles, or in the face of casting agents going, "Oh, that thing? Yeah, no. It's not going to be for you, sweetie."
But she's so talented. I that's what I can't get past. I like I said, she seemed to have it all. And from what I understand, this was a pretty highly sought after role. I think I want to say Tina Turner might have tried out for it. I think there were some heavy hitters. Oh, no. Donna Summer, excuse me. Donna Summer was apparently in the mix for this. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But she's Paul Nicholas, I think, he wasn't the original, but I think he had made his name as Jesus Christ Superstar.
It would have been Ted Neely's understudy.
Ted Neely, by the way, was in the original Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band on the road.
Yes,
he was in that.
Understudy was David Patrick Kelly.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. By the way, I saw Ted Neely do a production of Jesus Christ Superstar in college. It's a thrill.
And he was 700 years old.
No, he wasn't. He was awesome. He was really, it was a thrill for me to see him. But anyway, enough of that. So there's this performance of got to get you into my life going on. It's fabulous. The band is watching this, but what's happening? They can't see what's happening in the back. What's happening in the back, Father Malone?
They've stolen Strawberry Fields. Now, here's what I'm going to say about this. You've mentioned that this character has no agency. I will say that they've actually given her negative agency.
Right.
She has come and rescued them from their life of deprivation or depredation, and collected the instruments triumphantly to return to Heartland, where they're gonna reinvigorate the town right now. And they basically stick her on the merch booth.
Yeah, she's selling popcorn.
She's selling popcorn. They're seated in the front row watching Earth, Wind, and Fire, and the girlfriend, who has fucking.
It always really, I got to say, it always really bothered me. There was something, because it's the guy from Twin Peaks, this brute. He's like twice as tall as Strawberry Fields, as the actress. And Mr. Mustard sees her and gets this slavering look on his face. And he kind of points to the brute to say, "You grab her and let's go." And the brute comes from behind her and basically just picks her up bodily and takes her into this bus that they're going to leave town with. I found that really scary as a kid. They basically steal a human being in the middle of all of this and no one notices, right?
Oh, how could you notice when fucking Earth, Wind, and Fire are up on stage? It's not going to notice my girlfriend being kidnapped right out from under me when they're grooving up there.
My God, can you hear Maurice White? No one sings like him. No, that's another disturbing aspect to this. It's played for laughs a little bit, but it's abduction. It's really kind of scary. So they disappear.
Ultimately, HP though, it's abduction in like this snidely whiplash manner. She's tied up, and
it is, and it's played. It's cartoonish, but I don't know. There's something about that always.
Frankie Howard had a mustache; he would twirl it.
True, and that's what made him singing. So you talked about When I'm 64 being a highlight, but there's and maybe this is a positive. There's a disturbing edge to it, because they're on the bus. They're they're going to see FVB with these hostages, because it's Strawberry Fields and Dougie and Lucy are all discovered on this bus. He starts to sing When I'm 64, but he's essentially singing it to this helpless hostage that he has.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know. There's something.
It's great. It's a threat. This is what, anytime, like they did with She's So Heavy, anytime they recontextualize the song and make those lyrics meaningful in another way, I think it really, really works. I wish they had done it more.
I have to agree. It's clearly the things that we love the most that made the most impact were those moments where they take the song away from its origins as far as they can, and they interpret it in a different way.
And then that song is not a duet, but then she gets a verse, which is the more plaintive of the two verses, where she's not really talking to him at all. She's calling for help. I love the whole sequence.
Send me a postcard, drop me a line.
All right.
Stating point of view. Indicate precisely what you mean to say.
You don't
You're
know?
sincerely wasting away.
Give me your answer. Fill in a form. Mine forevermore. Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the band are chasing them. Did you mention
Hot air balloon?
they're back in the hot air balloon? Oh, but not only that, but they when they get into the hot air balloon to leave in hot pursuit, they duck down into the basket, and there's a flash of light, and they duck back up, and they're wearing old timey like flight goggles, and I think they even have like a crank that's cranking a propeller behind it.
Old timey, but that's not what happens. They go down and then they come back up, and everything is satin because they are like superheroes, man. Like 3 Wonder Women.
It is, so they make it all the way. We finally see who FVB is, and this is also again. We're praising this movie an awful lot for being such a flop, but this was also another sequence that that made an impact that I think is effective, because we see FVB finally, and who is FVB, Father Malone?
It's fucking Aerosmith, and it's Aerosmith peak Aerosmith. This is my Aerosmith. Everyone else's Aerosmith seems to be the Wayne's World, Ragdoll, Daddy's Little Cutie. Every song begins with the chorus, then a verse, then a chorus, then second verse, then chorus, 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 chorus. That is late era Aerosmith. These are the fucking scary motherfuckers, the boys from Boston. And again, the fact that they're in this movie gave the movie so much credibility that it didn't deserve. And this cover, I don't know about you, man, but this is the version of Come Together that I listen to.
He wear no shoe shine, he got toe jam football, he got monkey finger, he shoot Coca-Cola, he say, I know you, you know me. One thing I can tell you is you got to be free. Come together right now over me.
This is the we're seeing the Toxic Twins version of Aerosmith. These are the kind of glammed out, drugged out, skeevy, really.
They are so young and beautiful here. It's out of hand. Like by the way, this was the ugly band, right? I'm looking at them here and I'm like, these kids, like at the height of their sort of creative power, fucking A, man. I thought I agree with you. What they represent is that skeevy danger, but they're not given like junkie here. They're given virile performances.
There's a moment where, well, I think it's during like a guitar break where, so they're just to set visually what's happening here. Strawberry Field, they're on, it's like giant towers of coins, money, right? Because FVB's whole slogan is, we hate love, we hate joy, we love money. You keep hearing this repeated as a mantra. So when they get to the headquarters of FVB, they're performing on top of giant stacks of coins, basically at the very top. The band's all set up there. Strawberry Fields is tied to a giant neon dollar sign, right? During the guitar break, Steven Tyler sachets over to her and he's got the scarves and everything around his mic stand, and he starts to canoodle with her a little bit and kiss her. And you can see, it's great acting on Strawberry Fields' part, or Sandy Farina's part, because she raises up her hand and it's almost trembling because she's like, I want you to get away from me because this is so freaking me out right now. There's a danger, is what I'm trying to say. There's a real danger to Aerosmith in the moment and in Steven Tyler, because now he's a goofball. He looks like he's old. He looks like your crazy old aunt. He's just a weird looking guy. But here, he was young. Like you said, he was virile. He was dangerous. And that's what I took away from this scene is there's an energy to them and their performance that I think is probably one of the best things about the movie.
Absolutely. It's so funny because this is a terrible movie, but there are so many sequences that I can point to and go, that's really good. You definitely should watch that sequence. This is one of them. And that energy, that sort of danger, the whole band is giving off that vibe, particularly that whenever there's a shot of Steven Tyler singing and Joe Perry leans in to sing a line or two with him, that danger compounds.
It's amazing. There's a real, even now when I watch it, there's an energy to their performance that I think is really remarkable. But
I should say it speaks once again to this idea that had they wanted to, because they had all of these songs and they could have been telling this story, if this had been a straight ahead, we're a band who've gone off to Hollywood to make it big and this is our struggle, and this was their rival band.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. If they were like, oh, that would have been dynamite. Oh my God. Like, this is the band they have to supplant to become the greatest band in LA or whatever. And they've got a rivalry going on. Wow, that would have been awesome. Instead, it's just weird, heightened. I don't know what they were thinking when they were writing this, because it goes in so many weird directions, including this. Because what happens is our heroes, Sergeant Pepper's band, they finally make their way to Strawberry Fields, and a giant fist fight ensues where all the band members are fighting against each other. And it's a bit horrifying, even as a kid. Strawberry Fields ends up, I don't know, she even though she's tied to this.
Oh, okay. Look, it's a melee, right?
It is a melee. Yeah.
Bee Gees versus Aerosmith. And the Hitler Youth menacing them with flagpoles. It's a crazy sequence. And Steven Tyler is on top of Peter Frampton, strangling him. By the way, I mentioned all the teenagers who piled into my den to watch this, cheering. A lot of cheering going in 1980 or 81 when Steven Tyler from Boston, and we're all from Boston, is strangling Peter Frampton. Anyway, so he's strangling Peter Frampton. Strawberry Fields, in order to save Billy Shears, kicks Steven Tyler off, which he plummets off of the tower. This is a great sequence. He dies. He falls to his death. But then when they show him dead, he's splayed really crazily over an image of a dollar bill with his face on it.
It's really good. And it looks so real when he falls off of that stack of coins. Like there's nothing special effecty about it. He plummets, and then you see the after effects, which was rare in movies, to see this guy dead, like you said, splayed across a picture of a dollar bill, no less. But in doing so, she has had to move this giant dollar sign.
This neon dollar sign. It's a neon green dollar sign, and it's like a coin, but it's in two parts. So it's like two coins slotted together. And she's chained in the corner of one of those where they meet. And now that thing has become so rickety that it plummets off. Oh my God, it's so good.
It's crazy. I remember watching this as a kid, and as a kid, you watch these movies and these shows, and the good guys never die. Someone always figures out a way to save the day at the end, but yet here we are, this virtuous, sweet, innocent woman it's awful the way they show it, because this neon thing crashes over these stairs and you see her body get jangled with it, and it explodes in like a bunch of sparks, and everything stops at that point, right? They all stop fighting, and Billy Shears goes down to see his dead girlfriend. It's horrible what happens.
And for the first time, in 40 years, I noticed that all of the Hitler Youth have disappeared. Not just
Really?
disappeared, their boots and their outfits are still laying on those stairs. The poles are still there, laying akimbo. So evidently, in killing Steven Tyler, their army has been defeated in wisps of smoke because there's smoke pouring up.
Oh, they got vaporized.
Yeah.
I never noticed that. Not even
No,
the
because
last
they
time I
never
watched it.
featured it, but it's right there.
Wow. That's crazy because everything grinds to a halt in that moment. Everybody stops fighting.
That's
But I
why
never noticed.
Tyler is dead.
Ah, which lends credence to the theory that he was that disembodied voice
Must have
over
been.
the must have been. It's not really Steven Tyler speaking, but it must have been his character.
Right. That's interesting. So we solved
Yeah.
that. We're making
We
this
solved that riddle.
HP.
There you go. We're making
Nothing
it
can
better.
save us past this point. This is where the movie should have ended, honestly.
Right. But then the movie becomes a real bummer
Oof.
because they take Strawberry Fields back for her funeral in Pepperland / Heartland. And they've made the inexplicable decision to entomb her in a glass see-through casket,
Like Snow
which I didn't
White.
even right, like Snow White.
But I'd like to also point out that Pepperland / Heartland hasn't been rejuvenated at all. They had a big concert there, but it's still a fucking pit.
Yeah, the cheeseburger is still there in the center of town.
Yeah, it's still all porno theaters and
Foreclosures, yeah, everything. Yeah. So this becomes a reflective part of the movie for our heroes because Billy Shears is beside himself with grief as anybody would be. So they
before we get there, okay, because we do Golden Slumbers, right? Yeah, once there was way. Okay, so we get Golden Slumbers first, which is weird. The Bee Gees and Peter Frampton and Dougie are the pallbearers hefting this glass coffin, and inside the entire during the sequence, all I kept thinking was, please let that be a mannequin. Because would you trust these coked up freakazoids to carry you in a glass coffin in a scene?
I wouldn't trust them to tell me what the weather was that day. They must have been so out of their minds on drugs. But I looked, I couldn't tell if it was a mannequin or not. I hope it was. I hope she didn't get hurt.
Too. But then I think about James Bond and Jane Seymour sitting in the double-decker bus while they're doing crazy stunts because they wanted her character in there and she didn't know any better and didn't think to go, hey, can we just have a stunt person? So it's really Jane Seymour and like this bus doing crazy shit. So I wouldn't put it past the late 70s to have Sandy Farina stuck in that glass coffin.
It's a bummer, man, because like you said, it starts Golden Slumbers for me has always been one of the saddest of Beatles songs. I don't know what it is. There's something in the tonality of it and the sentiment and the way that Paul sings it that
maybe those lyrics, once there was a way to get back homeward, once there was a way to get back home. It's clearly I'm at my wit's end as a
and it's the callback to You Never Give Me Your Money. I loved it. This would have been the first time I ever heard it, by the way. So maybe this is part of why I find it so sentimental. I don't know, because it is there. If you think about it, it is sad because this guy whose girlfriend has died under the most tragic circumstances. And he's essentially singing Golden Slumbers to her dead body in this coffin as they take her out to the carriage to be buried or what have you.
Oh,
and that's
HP. There is one cast member we have failed to mention. That is Glycerin. Glycerin tears play a prominent role here for the rest of the movie anytime Peter Frampton is on screen. He is just slathered in glycerin tears because apparently he's not going to be able to cry when he's that fucking happy because he's on 10 pounds of cocaine. In this next scene, we're going to take all of your cocaine away. Maybe he could have cried then.
His face is tear streaked for the rest of the movie, basically, or glycerin all over those cheeks. The band and they're wandering around Heartland, reminiscing about the good times.
Listen, I'm going to be eating humble pie here, but I'll just say this. Peter Frampton is terrible. He has no dialogue and he's awful. Walking around, I don't believe him.
At least I have to say, rewatching this, I'm not suggesting that Barry Gibb is any kind of an actor, but there are moments during this whole thing because he eventually starts singing "A Day in the Life," Barry Gibb, as he's reminiscing about the band's halcyon rise to fame. There's a few moments there where you can see something in his face approaching acting, I guess.
He should have been Billy Shears. If they wanted an actor, then they should have gone with him, definitely. Also,
Yeah, no,
am I not going to get any noise junkie props for my humble pie joke?
I noticed that I let it go because I didn't want because I thought maybe you were gonna I figured I'd let it go and it would be our own little Easter egg, but that's okay. So yeah, so like I said, it's a big bummer. They're very sad about what's happened to this girl and about what's happened to their town. And while this is all happening, they're all reminiscing and looking very sad and dressed in black. Billy Shears has snuck to now he's gonna jump out of a window. But I have to say, he picked a very low,
very short drop.
It's like barely 1 story high.
He was going to hurt himself.
He was going to break his legs. That's all he was going to do. But
if Jackass has taught us anything, is that the human body can withstand quite a bit. Billy Shears was in no real danger here.
No, but he can't take it anymore. He can't live with himself. So he's gonna kill himself. This is the suicide we alluded to earlier, and this movie has just gone in a very dark direction here. In that flashback earlier, where you talked about how they made George Burns look younger for a flashback about Sergeant Pepper, they erected in the center of Heartland. They put up a weather vane that's a brass rendering of Sergeant Pepper, and the thing is, it's always supposed to point the way towards happiness. Right?
Show me the way.
Show me the way. Wah, 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 wah. They've timed it so that Billy Shears jumping coincides with the famous part at the end of Day in the Life where the strings are getting very tense. Da, 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 and it's all very.
Oh, wait. Can I just say before we get there, HB?
Okay.
Because this is significant.
Yeah. Go for it.
During the Day in the Life sequence, when we get to the made the bus seconds flat, that whole thing, where we get that brief moment of the actual day in the life of Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band when they were at the top of their game back in Hollywood. Once again, just reinforces that's the movie I wanted to see.
It is because when they emerge from that and somebody spoke and I went into a dream, they cut to them performing live as the band in their sort of heyday in the movie. It is very cool. In talking this out, I agree that there is a better movie to be had if you stick to, it may not be the most original idea to have them, fighting against temptation and looking to make it, but I think it would have been a more interesting, less fanciful, it wouldn't have been a mess. I'll say that we have here. But so there's this weather vane that's supposed to point the way towards happiness. And because Billy Shears is jumped off of a building, the weather vane starts spinning wildly because where's happiness? There's no happiness anymore. It's trying to find the happiness in this whole thing. But then it starts to strobe and it takes the form of none other than Billy Preston dressed in a gold Sergeant Pepper outfit.
Gold lame Sergeant Pepper outfit. Oh my God, the movie comes alive.
It's amazing. And if you ever wanted to truly define the term Deus Ex Machina for somebody, all you really need to do is show them the final 10 minutes of this movie because it's the very definition of Deus Ex Machina. So what happens is this weather vane comes to life in the form of Billy Preston singing Get Back, which is, look, they don't deviate from the template of the original song, but I like it because I like Billy Preston a lot. It's very funky, but it's still, the bones of it is still very much the same as the Beatles version. But he sings his ass off. He's great.
Get back, Loretta. Your mama's waiting for you. With a high heel shoes and a low neck sweater. Get back, Loretta. Get back, yeah. Get on back. Get back to where you once belonged. Get back, yeah. Get on back. Get back to where you once belonged.
And he dances his way to the ground. he floats down from the weather vane position while dancing. It's totally convincing.
It is. He comes down and he's just bopping his way around. And where the Deus Ex Machina.
You know what? As shitty as this movie is, this whole sequence is elating. The fact that you would have this magical character show up and go, "This is fucked up. Let's put everything right." And not only let's put everything right, but let's put everything right in the most joyous way possible. He's so happily meting out wonder.
He is, because he goes pew, like he'll point his finger and it's a Flash Gordon sound effect, lightning bolts come out of it, and he shoots and they roll back the footage of Billy Shears jumping, so he floats back up to his little half-story height, and he's, oh my God, I'm okay. And then he
top of this step ladder.
Right? Yeah. I will just throw myself off the building again. What happened? He shoots Mr. Mustard and the Brute, and they become the Pope and another cleric for some reason.
First, they become a nun and a priest, and then they
right,
become like a bishop and a friar or something like that.
That's what it is. And then he does the same thing. He shoots Dougie and Lucy, who are trying to sneak away, and they become a nun and a priest or something. For some reason, the clergy are not looked at well here. If they're like the comeuppance for the bad guys, but most telling,
them all holy folk people now, much to their own horror.
I guess that's what.
Also realizing he's in a leisure suit,
right? But most importantly, he shoots and Strawberry Fields is whole again. She goes, "Oh my God, I'm alive," which is disturbing if you think about it. Because what I want to have happen now as an adult, like as a kid, I took it all at face value. But I would love it if he ran over to her and like she turns her head, but half of her face is missing because she's actually a zombie that's been
or
magic.
Yeah, along those lines, I would have liked to have said, like, "You don't know where I've been. The darkness, it's waiting for all of us. This is all ash."
We always made so everything that was bad is now. And he even zaps like these banners for Mr. Mustard. So he's correcting everything that was bad in Heartland. He's fixed everything in the span of a 3-minute pop song, which as a child I took at face value, and like you said, I found it very uplifting, and I was elated to see all of that. But
elation leads to confusion.
It was just, I guess they just couldn't. I don't know. How else would you end it? I guess you can't end it on a downer, but how do you wrap up all of these things?
I think you end it with him shooting into the camera and the end appearing, and not, as I said, the confusion of a room full of whoever happened to be on the MGM lot that day to sing the chorus, the reprise of Sergeant
finale.
This is supposed, you mentioned We Are the World and Hands Across America earlier. That's what this is meant to be, like this super star-studded array of people all joyously celebrating this terrible version of Sergeant Pepper.
Well, clearly Robert Stigwood cashed in every single IOU that he had in Hollywood, because now it's silly because you're seeing people like Seals and Crofts and David Carradine and Carol Channing in the group, but it is for the time, it is fairly star-studded, this chorus, right?
Do you think? Look, I am always will be a giant fan of Mr. Wolfman Jack, so I'm happy to see him in there. But the rest of it,
there.
It just feels like everyone is Dan Aykroyd, and we are at the We Are the World session. Everyone just feels like, what are we doing here? Is it like Ronnie Sapp? I think Connie Francis might be in there.
She is.
I can't imagine he wouldn't be.
I didn't see Milton Berle, but Peter Allen is there. People remember Peter Allen. Dame Edna is there for some reason. Tina Turner's there. There's some. It's the thing of it is, when we were kids, movies, like, look, we were watching movies. This is before widescreen, right? So you're watching a movie on a square box. So they had to reformat these movies so that they would fit. Oftentimes when they would get to the credits, you had to show all of the credits. So the movie would shift to this weird elongated aspect ratio, right, Father Malone?
Oh, yeah.
So everybody became tall. So as a kid, I always tried to pick out like people, like who's there. I can't, it was hard to do because they were also elongated and bizarrely stretched. But now, because it's on widescreen, I can see all of these great performers.
Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Giants.
They look very alien like with very long arms and legs. Like the ending of the Warriors was the same thing where they're walking along
That's right. I
the
definitely
beach.
remember that. Like, why is it suddenly blown up to Crazy Town?
Why are they all tall all of a sudden? It was weird. But yeah, it is fairly inexplicable, some of the people in that chorus, but at the same time, I don't know, maybe in 1978 or whenever it was, there's some star power there, I think.
Elvin Bishop and Stephen Bishop were both there. You
Well,
mentioned
Stephen Bishop does my favorite thing, which is as he's singing Sergeant Pepper's Lonely, he does this thing where he does the Sergeant Pepper like salute. I don't know. There's something about that. I thought that guy actually gets it. This is a goof for him.
it's Stephen Bishop, who's essentially a goof under his easy listening heart. Rick Derringer is there. Donovan is there. Dr. John is there. I guess you're right. This is pretty star-studded. Hart was there.
Yeah, Leif Garrett was big.
I was saving Leif Garrett because I have a Leif Garrett story. When I was living in Los Angeles, I went to on Sunset Boulevard. I went, or maybe it was Hollywood Boulevard. I think it's Hollywood actually. There was a Pier 1 Imports, and I went into this Pier 1, and there was somebody talking behind me, and I turned around, and standing behind the counter was Leif Garrett. And I went, wow, Leif Garrett. And he went, oh, hey. And then I looked at him because he was standing behind the counter. And I said, you don't work here, do you? And he went, no. And then walked away.
So why was he behind the counter if he didn't work there?
He had been talking to, I think, an employee and had just found himself backed into it accidentally while they were talking, just found himself situated back there. So I just happened to find him there.
Oh, okay. Because it's not out of the realm that, because he's had his ups and downs. We all know this. And there's no shame if he's working at Pier 1. Let's be honest.
Hey, man, that's everything is work. Peter Noon, Robert Palmer, Bonnie Raitt. This is a pretty good list, honestly.
Curtis Mayfield. That's huge.
Yeah, bro. I take
Jack
back
Bruce,
Sha-na-na, Gwen Verdon, Hank Williams,
yeah.
Bobby Womack. Oh man, I want a movie about that.
There's a lot of interesting
movie with that group of people in the back of a truck, like a flatbed, and they just drive them around singing that song everywhere.
Just them singing it over and over and over
Third
again.
option for this film. They could have gone total fantasy route. They could have gone gritty look at coming up in the streets of Hollywood, and they could have gone this total fucking celebrity grandstand roadshow-a-thon.
So let me ask you one last question about this chorus at the end. If you're looking at this list, who do you reckon is the biggest star now? Like looking back, thinking, because obviously Leif Garrett doesn't cut it modern day, but looking at this, who do you think is the biggest star that was there that day?
Clearly Gary Wright, author of Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver.
Look, Tina Turner was there, so Tina Turner is the winner.
She is the winner. She's unquestioned. I don't know why I didn't think of that in the first place. But when you're looking at, it's funny because I'm looking at this list, but on the screen, it looks like the chorus goes on forever. It looks like there's easily 500 people up there on the stage, but it's really not that many people when you look at the list.
And thank goodness it was brief.
So what do we make of Sergeant Pepper, Father Malone? What do we make of it?
It's nearly 2 hours long and should be 90 minutes. That's what I make of it. I think ultimately I love this movie just because it's a warm blanket on a Sunday afternoon flick. Like it just feels cozy to me. Like you, I think this was in fact my introduction to the Beatles. I had to discover them all over again and relearn some after this film. I think it's a fascinating snapshot of a time and place. I think the joke of people were on cocaine is a bit overused, particularly in podcasts when they refer to anything from the 70s and 80s. And yet I can point to this movie and go, cocaine, and it's on screen.
Yeah, it's all there.
What do you think about this movie, HB?
I agree. I'm always a little bit torn when we go over movies or music from our childhood respectively, because there's always this idea, is my nostalgia coloring my impression of the quality of the piece, right? I think in this case, for sure, if I wasn't raised with this movie as in a formative time, I don't know what I would make of it. I don't know that I would hold it as dear to my heart, because I could quote this movie. I can close my eyes and replay any bit of this movie because I've seen it so many times. For me, this was a big Channel 56 night at the movies thing. I don't remember it so much on cable as I remember it being on Channel 56 in the Boston area. I again, I'm going to agree with you that it's just one of those things that it makes me feel happy because I have memories of being little and watching this. But if I were an adult and you plunked this in front of me and said, watch this, I think I would have checked out before they even, formed the reformed Sergeant Pepper's band. I think I would have been like, this is terrible. This is trash.
I can't recommend this movie as a movie or film. I can recommend it as a curiosity, 100%. The same way I can recommend The Apple or Mr. Freedom.
Yeah. The Apple is a great analog for this. You're so right on with that, because tonally and visually, look, this isn't as out there as the Apple. The Apple goes to some places that Sergeant Pepper can only dream of.
But what this has is the fucking Beatles soundtrack.
It's stylistically and visually, this has that same sort of gauzy look to it that the Apple had. And both pictures were born out of, I believe, a sense of hubris. Like, we can't lose. That was Canon. That was Golan and Globus.
Yeah.
The Apple.
Canon
Films. This was Stigwood, who owned these songs and thought he was going to print money with this movie. So there's definitely a connection there. That was very astute.
Why, thank you.
You don't need, I can't believe I didn't think of it myself, because I love both movies, probably for similar reasons.
So I can recommend the movie that way, but as much as I can draw any kind of comfort food feeling from this movie, I think we, even as children, recognize this is terrible. It exists as this bizarro sort of fantasia of Beatles and Bee Gees and everything going on at that moment in our history. I think I still appreciate it on that level, but as a movie, Jesus H. Christ, what are they thinking, man? It's the laziest form of, hey, you recognize these songs, let's put them into some kind of an order that makes enough sense that you'll buy this soundtrack album.
The bottom line for me is, I saw this movie before I had developed the capacity to watch a movie critically and think about whether it's a good or a bad movie. To me, all movies were just movies on TV, and I gave no thought to the quality. The only quality that I detested as a child was, is it boring? This is a lot of things. I wouldn't say this is particularly boring. There's a lot of weirdness happening at any given moment. In that way, I almost have to recuse myself, judge from, really critically analyzing this, because I have such a history with it, I may not have the capacity to think that critically.
I'll think that critically for you. It's bad. Don't watch it for a good and coherent flick. If you have access to some cannabis and have never seen this movie before, yeehaw, I envy you. You're going to have a good time. And I will add this before we go. I would still fast forward through two sequences in this movie, but not the Alice Cooper sequence anymore. Oh, no, no, no. The other one is a song that never should have been recorded.
Oh, I know what it is. Can I guess before you tell me? Here Comes the Sun?
No, She's Leaving Home.
Oh, yeah, with the robot voices.
No, not so much. Actually, that part of the song I liked, HP. The fact that the robots were singing it for part of it was fantastic. It's when the adult humans take over, and then it becomes total melodrama. It becomes all the worst instincts of Paul McCartney's writing. I mentioned earlier, like he had that fucking tend to lean into the dramatic a little too hard sometimes, and this song is probably the worst song I think he's ever written.
We gave her most of our lives, sacrificed most of our lives. We gave her everything. everybody goodbye. Bye, bye.
Really? You think this is... Wait. Let's back up.
Leaving
You
Home
think
is one of the worst songs ever written. It's his worst song.
you think it's worse than Maxwell's Silver Hammer?
I enjoy Maxwell's Silver Hammer.
You're out of your mind. That song is garbage.
Steve Martin's version. I'm talking about the Beatles version.
Oh, I'm talking about the Beatles version. Even the Beatles version, I hate it. I hate Maxwell's Silver Hammer.
I like it more than She's Leaving Home. Monday morning.
Look, here's the thing.
Jump in here, save me. No, you're on your own with this one.
No, let me qualify that just slightly. I'm not suggesting that I rock She's Leaving Home on a regular basis. It's not in my Beatles rotation when I listen to it in my car. However, I recognize that it is a good piece of soap opera kind of melodrama. The strings are wonderful. By the way, the strings weren't even done by George Martin. It's one of his lost opportunities, but that's another story. I will listen to that a million times before I will ever listen to Maxwell's Silver Hammer. I just can't get bang, bang, Max. I hate the jauntiness of it. The hitting of the anvil. It's so cheesy, Father Malone. I can't believe you said that.
You're saying that's cheesier than this fucking goddamn soap opera bullshit? Are you crazy?
No, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Our baby's gone. Why did she leave us so thoughtlessly?
Oh my God. Oh, shut the fuck up already.
We maybe have a difference of opinion, but
screaming from the gallery, say he must go free. The judge does not agree. That's at least lyrically satisfying, as opposed to, oh my God, where has our child gone?
Here's the thing. We will find a way to meet in the middle, because at a minimum, we have to keep in mind that these are both songs written by Paul. So we can at least agree that he was the most, he leaned into those melodramatic, cheesy impulses more than anyone else, including Ringo. So I think we can agree on that at least.
Oh yeah, 100%. We are talking about Paul versus Paul here. We are arguing which is the worst Paul song of Paul's terrible songs. Paul had some terrible songs.
Well, no, if we're looking for his worst song ever, the answer is obvious. It's Temporary Secretary, right? That's his worst song.
I don't know, man. I can't really get past She's Leaving Home.
You think that's worse than Temporary Secretary?
I think so.
Oh man, this has got to be. We got to be continued. We got to get into this in another. This is not the right arena for this, but we got to talk about this, my friend.
In Maxwell Silverhammer, at one point he laughs like while he's singing the song, and it's charming. So that has that going for it, which is nice.
Yeah, we're not recommending that anybody go out and see this movie. If you're really that curious, go to YouTube. You can find these scenes, I'm sure, a la carte. So if you want to see the scene where FVB kills Strawberry Fields, go to town.
Yeah, basically, I mean, it's like a mixtape where you can just jump to your favorite song, favorite sequence. And I highly encourage everyone to do that. You definitely don't want anything to do with getting better or fixing a hole. But if you wanted to jump into I Want You, She's So Heavy, yeehaw, man, that's great. That whole sequence, great. The whole Earth, Wind, and Fire sequence is great. The Aerosmith sequence is great. There was another sequence. What did I forget? Oh, the When I'm 64 sequence is great.
You like that more than me. I found that a little more disturbing, but maybe that's part of the beauty of it.
Supposed to be.
Okay. Then I guess it's accomplishing its goals then. It's just not one that I would necessarily seek out, but those others are pretty unimpeachable, I think.
Well, I think we've done it again. I don't know what we did here. We watched this movie. I watched it twice for this. I feel dirty a little bit.
I did too. We got there. It took a while, but we got there.
And at least we ended with Billy Preston telling everyone to get back. And I love, by the way, when she comes back to life and he's like, get back, Loretta. It's so fantastic. It's so familial and just uplifting.
Don't forget that Billy came in and he really rescued those Let It Be sessions for the Beatles. It's maybe a little bit overdone, but they weren't getting along. And George Harrison brought him in because A, he knew he was a great fucking player, and B, he knew that he was a solid fucking guy that they would all be on their best behavior around. And you can see that. There's something so ebullient about his appearance in the movie. He's smiling, he's dancing, he's singing his ass off. He's awesome. He's Billy fucking Preston. He's great.
Yeah, I guess that alone should recommend the movie, but I'm not recommending the movie. Anyway, when you're not here, where can people find you, you noise junkie, you Walters man?
I am, you said it. When I'm not listening to music or talking music with you, Father Malone, you can find me. I co-host the Night Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast with my esteemed colleague across from me here. And I'm an occasional guest on the Culture Cast with Chris Dashew. I have a Bandcamp site, Father Malone, hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com. I just released my first real quote-unquote album, Wired and Waiting. Please listen to it. It's free. If you want to send a few bucks my way, I would not turn that down, but enjoy it nevertheless. And yeah, that's where you can find me. How about yourself, Father Malone? Where else can the folks find you when you're not talking music with me?
First of all, go listen to that album immediately. It is like a soundtrack to an 80s movie that doesn't exist. And perfectly so. I fucking loved it, man. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
If you want to find me, basically, you're just going to find me here at Midnight Viewing. You all know that. But if you want to help out in any way, then please head over to patreon.com/Father Malone. Subscribers get this show and all of our shows early and commercial free. And you get bonus shows like another show I do with HP here. We do a show called Cable Box Theater where we look at early 80s, late 70s cable networks when they were showing Broadway plays as content because they were just out of everything else. Instead of playing Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, they would occasionally show plays. You can find me there if money is tight, and it certainly is, and it's only going to get tighter, everybody. Could you just like this show or give it 5 stars or write a nice review or tell somebody else to listen to it or hand it over to an influential agent who has ties with B.D. Hoffler or Brockhurst. Until next time, thank you for joining us here at Midnight Viewing. We're gonna leave you with a bit from the movie. Here we go.
One sweet dream. Pick up the bags, get in a limousine. Soon we'll be away from here. Step on the gas and wipe that tear away. One sweet dream came true today. Came true today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All good children go to heaven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All good children go to heaven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All good children go to heaven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All good children go to heaven.
Are you a film fan who loves the ultimate home video experience? Look no further than The Disconnected. Your host, Ryan Verrill, is your go-to source for the latest and most accurate information on home video releases, exclusive interviews with industry insiders and filmmakers, and has established a thriving community where every film and physical media enthusiast feels welcome. From hidden gems to blockbuster hits, The Disconnected brings you insider knowledge and a welcoming space to share your love of cinema. Watch every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific for the live announcements show and follow The Disconnected on social media to stay updated. Subscribe to The Disconnected on YouTube or on the podcast provider of your choice and dive into a world where every movie night is an adventure.